Retro camcorders are freaking awesome, and for whatever reason, you want to find one, shoot with one, and figure out how to get the footage onto your ding-dang computer in a way that won't make you tear your hair out. Lucky for you, I grew up using these cameras all the time to make home videos, and I still use them to this day as a 30-year-old dad slash filmmaker slash YouTuber guy. In this video, I'm gonna tell you everything you need to know to buy the right camera for you, how to capture great footage with it, and how to get it on your computer and edit it in a super simple and efficient way. Thank you to Axoon for sponsoring today's video. We'll talk about them at a completely random time in the video. This might sound obvious, but eBay. So a good place to start is actually Sony Handycam High 8. Now, High 8 is just a type of tape that was released back in the day that fits in these little cameras, the small tape deck in here. It's my favorite part. Oh, dude, the way it just pops out like that, pops back in, goes down by itself. This is a high 8mm tape. Very common in these old cameras. Some of them take different tapes, like this Sony VX1000. This is a bit more expensive and kind of like more highly sought after vintage camera. That takes DV tapes, which is different. And then this guy takes like full-size VHS tapes, which you can see on the side there. That's why the side of this camera is so massive. But I would say Sony Handycams with the High 8 style tape decks are gonna be pretty affordable and really easy to find that are working. I honestly usually just go for buy it now, just because I don't like sitting around waiting for auctions all the time. It can be a little tedious and ain't nobody got time for that. Right here, I mean, this one says $149. This actually looks very similar to a model that I have. There's tons of different models of these, like the TR V16, like that V16, that's the model number. But I mean, $149, basically, what I would do is I would click on this listing. I know I can get this for 150 bucks. A couple things I'm gonna check on is just looking through the pictures and make sure it's actually in decent shape. That's good to see a photo of the camera powered on. That's a great sign, obviously. Yeah, I mean, it looks like it comes with a battery. I don't see a tape. It comes with a power supply, which is good. One other thing I like to check is if they take returns or not. This one actually does. 30-day returns is pretty cool. So if you get it and you don't like it, it's not right for you, or it doesn't work, you can return it, no issues. That's always a plus, but not every seller is gonna offer that. And then obviously you're gonna wanna read the description and make sure that this thing is actually working. So the condition is kind of like an automated eBay thing. You want to go down to see if they actually typed anything in. Although it weighs only a little over 450 grams, this state-of-the-art camcorder, like you can tell that's copy-pasted for sure. Here we go. This right here looks a little bit different. Okay, it says tested, comes with battery and charger, see photos. A lot of the text you're gonna see looks like it's ripped right out of the camera's manual or something. So what you can do is just look at the seller feedback, which is another great feature of eBay. This person's 98% positive. 1,000 items sold. Fantastic seller, fast shipping. The item arrived real fast. Thank you, heart, comma S. Merhandies. That's good to know. That's probably one that I would go for, but let's see what other options they have down here. Ooh, 160 bucks for this guy right here. And usually from the photos, you can tell if they have screens or not. This one looks like it's got a flip out screen, which is cool. This one, man, it looks like it's in pretty good shape. That's pretty tore up. A lot of these old High 8 style cameras will give you the same style of footage. There's a lot of different model numbers, but you don't really need to get too tripped up with that. You just wanna make sure it's working and that it comes with like a battery or a tape if you need that. We're gonna get more into that stuff too, don't worry. Item description, this is just for the camera itself. I used my personal charger adapter for demo. Battery does not hold charge, but play, record, work fine on adapter power. That's actually a really easy fix because you can just find replacement batteries for these relatively easy. Now I noticed this one takes this kind of battery, which is a little less common. A lot of these cameras take batteries like this, which are the NP style batteries from Sony. They're still like extremely common. Actually, my B cam right here, I'm just using it for product shots. It's the Blackmagic 6K full frame cinema camera. It takes these exact style batteries and they're extremely cheap on Amazon. I'll link some below. Typically, I like to go for cameras that take those kinds of batteries because they're so cheap, readily available, and they're gonna be around for a really long time. So I probably would not go for this one, to be honest. Let's see if we can find one more that I would go for. Another thing you can do also is just put working after the search and see if that brings up any different results. Here we go. Power adapter strap working. This one looks cool. Yep, see, that's the kind of battery you want right there. The Sony, you can see it says NP. This one comes with a bag too, which is kind of sick, and an original Handycam strap. Those always look cool. Capture memories with the Sony. Yeah, you can tell immediately that was ripped out of the manual or something. Excellent seller, great seller, great seller. They have 98% feedback. Let's see if they take returns. 30-day returns, that's great, man. This looks like a pretty dang good deal. This is another one I would probably go for. I feel like these kinds of cameras, the TRV Sony handycams, are gonna be super easy to find, relatively affordable, and you can usually find ones that are working really well. But if you're looking for something a little more obscure, you could look for something from the 80s, like this crazy JCPenney's VHS movie camera. 1980s VHS camera. Okay, let's look for buy it now. This is a buy it now for 18, wait, does it say $75 shipping? This is an untested solid state VHS recorder. Okay, from Sears. Just because it's untested, I'm automatically not gonna buy this. I always wanna make sure it's tested and working so I don't have to worry about it. Parts only, that means it's probably not working. Whoa, what is this? This is actually sick. I love the ones that come with these big cases. Whoa, is this the original handycam? It turns on, you can tell. It's got the video outputs and audio. Vintage Sony video camera recorder, original case and accessories. Powers up when plugged in. Appears to be operational, sold as is. This is probably one that I would be willing to risk just because it's so freaking cool looking. 75 bucks is not bad, but it's $91 shipping. Oh my gosh. I might buy this, for real. I'm gonna put this in my cart. Just for now, come on, don't judge. Another thing that's really important when looking into these cameras is making sure that they have video and audio outputs. I think most of them are going to, especially if they're from the 90s or 2000s, but you can see right here, these outputs are gonna be really important for the process of getting this footage onto our computer later. Also on the VX1000 right here, you can see we have S-video out right here, and then we have our regular audio video outputs out here, the colored cables that you've seen before. Especially if you're gonna find something more obscure like these 80s cameras, some of them might not have that unless it's a part of a separate unit. So just make sure you have outputs. You'll understand why in a little bit. Okay, so now you just purchase the camera, obviously. Go lift weights or hug a loved one while you wait for it to ship. And while we're waiting for our camera to ship and arrive, let me quickly tell you about today's sponsor. Do not skip this because it's actually something really cool I'm excited to show you guys about. So today's video is sponsored by Axoon. Let me see if I can show you this. They sent me this little gizmo here, and honestly, it's really, really cool. This is called the CMO 4K, and what it allows you to do is use your iOS iPhone on your camera as a monitor. This B cam, for instance, that I'm using to showcase products right now is the Blackmagic full frame, like I mentioned, the 6K full frame cinema camera. Too long of a name, yes, we know. But on top of the camera, I have my iPhone 14 Pro as a monitor facing me because this camera doesn't have a flip screen. The FX30 has a flip screen, no problem. Now I have a screen that I can see myself with this camera to judge exposure. It comes with tons of different tools like focus peaking, waveforms, vector scopes, grid lines, anamorphic D-squeeze with your freaking phone, false color, pretty much any professional filmmaking feature you could ask for is built into your phone now with this little module that sits on top of your camera. One of the coolest parts though is it has an SD card slot, so you could record footage directly to your phone separately, and it can capture footage up to 4K 30 frames per second. If that sounds like something you're interested in, go ahead and check it out, link in the description, Axoon CMO 4K. There are two main methods that I use to record footage from these retro style cameras. I'm gonna show you the first one that's a little bit cheaper but more annoying, and then secondly, I'll show you a way more convenient but slightly more expensive method. First method of recording, which is gonna be the most affordable but a little more annoying, is to record straight onto tape, just like the old days. I would recommend at least trying this method just for the simple fact that it's like way more old school feeling, and that analog feel of actually using a tape is so incredibly satisfying. Just ejecting it, putting it in, it just like brings me back to my childhood. But these are what the tapes look like in the high 8 cameras. These are the 8mm tapes, obviously. You can still buy these new on Amazon and some other places. If you're gonna go this method, try to find one that comes with the camera, because obviously it's just more affordable if it's part of the package. So you gotta put your tape in. It only goes in one way, like USB 2 cables that seemingly never work, but put your tape in, make sure it's all the way down, shut the deck. Most of these cameras just automatically close. It's like old school minivan doors, dude. Usually every camera has playback features as well, so what you wanna do is switch your camera into the playback mode. This one says VTR. But then I get these lit up buttons on the top of the camera. What I'm gonna do is press stop and then rewind. When you stop and rewind, it rewinds faster. So, fun little fact. Drink a little bit of wine in the middle. That's the sound of my childhood, baby. Flip the camera back into record mode. All you do I'll show you guys, is hit record. On the back, I have this red button right here, just like any camera. And now we are rolling. So one thing to note about this method is that we are limited to how much tape we have. And one thing you can do is rewind and record over tape a whole bunch of times because I've done it so much, but we are limited to the amount of tape on the frickin' tape. Another thing to note when recording to tape is sometimes when you're like going over and recording over tapes multiple times, it will glitch out at times. Sometimes if you bump the camera, the recording will glitch out because it's physical mechanisms recording over tape. And that can either result in really annoying glitches or really funny and cool glitches. It's just luck of the draw. This can be really frustrating in post. If you mess something up, it can like kill your audio or your video and just cause a ton of frustration in post. So if you're doing something where it's really important that this footage is kept safe, like some people like might want to use this on professional music videos to get that kind of a 90s vibe or whatever, I probably wouldn't go the tape method. And I'll explain the second method in a little bit. But if it's just for fun, this is a really easy way because it keeps the camera compact. You get to just use the tape. It feels fun to use, it's satisfying, and it's more affordable. So that's the first method. Now let's talk about the second. The second method is to record to an external monitor. If you have used something like an Atomos recorder, a Ninja 5 or something like that, this is actually very similar, but for old retro cameras. I actually have the recorder on this camera right here. I've talked about this in my dedicated VX1000 video, but this is the ClearClick monitor / recorder. It's very cool. The basic gist is this recorder allows you to completely bypass the tape deck from your camera. It goes directly from the audio video outputs on your camera into the video and audio inputs on the recorder. So the tape is not used at all. So in theory, you could find a camera that has a broken tape deck and still be able to perfectly record footage. It's probably not worth risking using a broken camera, but you theoretically could if you wanted something extremely cheap. But that gets more risky with the eBay listings and trying to find the perfect one and all that. So, but let me show you how this works. Basically, I came up with like a solution to mounting this just with random small rig parts in my studio here. It's gonna be mounted kind of funky, but it's just a demonstration. If you find the right listing, a lot of these older cameras will also come with cables and chargers, batteries and stuff like that. The VX1000 that I ordered came with an entire kit. It's freaking awesome. Came with some wide angle lens adapters, and it came with these audio video cables. So one thing to note, and I get roasted about this frequently, is a lot of people swear by S-Video instead of these cables because it gives you a little bit better quality. So a lot of these cameras do have S-Video outputs, and this recorder does have S-Video input. It can also take HDMI, which is kind of cool, full-size HDMI. For demonstration purposes, I'm gonna use this. If you wanna roast, feel free to roast. I have to poop so bad, I'm sorry guys. Wow, that poop took an entire day. Anyway, with this ClearClick monitor, it's very easy to set up. You wanna take either your S-Video cable if you're an absolute Chad, or if you're a lowly peasant like me, just use these audio video cables, plug them into the top of the recorder. Then the other end will go into your camera. So let me power on the camera. And then now let me power on the recorder by holding this down. I'm gonna unplug the audio actually, otherwise it's gonna make a crazy noise. So you can tell that this recorder is picking up the signal from the camera. You can see me zooming in and out. There's no lag or latency, which is super sick. Now quickly, I wanna tell you the pros and cons of using this recorder versus just using tape. The first main pro of using this recorder is it has a built-in rechargeable battery. So you don't have to put any big honking batteries on the back. It's rechargeable over USB-C. There is a con to that, which we'll get to, but that is pretty sweet. The second pro is it has a nice bright screen. So for filming outside, even inside, it's just a way better image than the screens that are on the cameras themselves. And it's nice and bright. So if you're going out and filming and using this, you're gonna have a much better viewing experience. Next pro is this just bypasses the whole tape experience. So if you don't wanna deal with any of that cumbersome stuff or risk having glitchy footage or messing things up, this completely bypasses it and is way more secure because it's digital. Also, you can replay your footage on here after you record it. So all you do is put a micro SD card in this. Let me find one really quick. Right up here is a micro SD card slot. So you just put your SD card in there. And the file sizes are really small too, which is great. So you just put your SD card in there and then you hit record right here. It says we are recording, which is super nice. So you record Then whenever you're done with your shot, you stop recording here. So you're not even hitting record or stop record on the camera itself. Everything is happening through this recorder. The camera is just a means to get that vintage look. And what's great about that is you can also play back footage on this. So how do I do that actually? If you push mode right there, it brings up this screen and you can actually play back your footage by hitting OK. Now it's playing back our previous shot, which is cool. And you can turn the volume up on this and actually hear the audio that you captured from the camera as well. And the fact that it records everything to a micro SD card is just amazing because it essentially turns old retro camcorders into modern cameras in terms of how you capture and dump the footage onto your computer. It just makes it so much faster, more efficient, and reliable. But what about the cons of this? The first one is it's much more expensive. You have to invest in this up front, but once you do that, you can use this recorder for a lot of different things. It doesn't have to just be retro cameras. It can be anything that takes HDMI, S-video, or red, yellow, and white input cables as well. So that's pretty handy. A big con though is it does make your setup quite a bit bulkier. So if you're just wanting to take a retro camcorder out with your friends or family, this might not be the best option because it's gonna be a little bit more bulky and intimidating for them. And the last con, we mentioned earlier that it has a built-in rechargeable battery, which is kind of cool, but also kind of not, because when your battery dies, you can't use it anymore until you recharge it. So just keep that in mind as you're using this. The battery life for me has been pretty great overall, but I haven't done extensive like long form shooting with it. So maybe just keep some tape and some batteries as a backup if you're using this on like music videos or professional shoots and just want to use older cameras. Maybe have some tape and batteries just in case. But overall, it's going to come down to your budget and what you're using this stuff for. All right, friends, we are at the final chapter of the video, the dumping and editing process. So this is where things get a little bit interesting because we have to talk about how we would do this from each of the recording methods that we talked about, tape and then digital. If you did go the tape route, you still have to convert your footage to digital, obviously, to get it onto your computer. There's one simple way to do that. Where did it go? Right here. You are going to need something called a digital converter. Wow. Hello? Hello? So you'd plug the USB end into the computer, and you can see this is the little converter box. Basically, this just will make your camera recognizable as a USB device and an audio device. And then this side here would go into cables. So you'd plug in your red, white, and yellow, or if you're a Chad, obviously, S-video, dude. And then the other side goes into your camera here. So it's very similar to the clear click recorder, but it's just converting after the fact of recording, not during recording, if that makes sense. Now that this is all plugged in, you just want to plug the USB stick into your computer, and then you're going to turn your camera on, but go into playback mode. And this is where we would stop and rewind our tape all the way back to the beginning again, like we talked about earlier. So once your tape is fully rewound, all you're going to do is open up QuickTime if you're using a Mac, and you go to File, New Movie Recording. In the drop-down menu, you're gonna wanna set your audio and video device both to this USB digital converter. Then hit record on the QuickTime recording screen, and then press play on your camera to start playing back the tape that's gonna be recorded by QuickTime in your computer. I hope that makes sense. Basically, you're just recording with QuickTime, but playing on your camera, and QuickTime is recording the signal that your camera is feeding to QuickTime. Obviously, QuickTime is just a Mac-only program, but if you have a PC, I would recommend using OBS. OBS is just another way to capture video and audio devices. So just open up OBS, set your audio and video devices up as that USB converter. I would probably just record in 1080p or 4K, I guess, if you end up putting this footage in a 4K timeline, and then hit record in OBS and then play back your footage exactly like we did with QuickTime. When it's done, when the tape is completely finished playing through, you hit stop, whether you're using QuickTime or OBS. And that file is what you want to save in a safe place so that you can use in your editing software. The length of this process is just going to depend on how much you recorded. If you took your camera out for a weekend and you blew through an entire tape, then you might just want to kick back, relax, maybe grab something to drink, play some Halo 3, you know, whatever you enjoy, and let the tape completely play back. And then after you get your file saved, you can finally just drop this file into your editing timeline and do whatever the heck you want with it, which is pretty freaking cool. But let's say you used method 2 to capture your footage. So you used the ClearClick digital monitor and recorder and recorded everything to a micro SD card. Well, all you do is pop out your SD card, put it into your card reader or your computer slot, and transfer the footage to your wherever you want and edit it. It's very simple. And that is why I love the ClearClick monitor, because you bypass this entire post system with this digital converter shenanigans. I mean, this is way cheaper, and it allows you to just use the camera by itself when you're out and about with your friends and family or whoever. Way more compact. But if you want a simpler post process, then you want to use something like this. So it really just comes down to what your situation is and how you want to shoot and edit. No matter what method you use, once you have your files saved to wherever your project files are, you just plop them into the editor of your choice and you can do whatever the heck you want with them. I can't tell you how to edit because I don't know what the heck you shot, but I'm excited to see what you guys are planning on making with these old retro cameras. So leave me a comment below on what you actually plan on shooting with these things. And if you have any questions, I would love to answer them to the best of my ability. But this is exactly how I do this entire process and how I've been doing it for years. So if you have some tips for me, let me know. If you have any questions, let me know. Like this channel, subscribe to this specific video, follow me on Instagram for short and dumb stuff, join the Discord for some nerdy camera friends. Watch out for deer because they're wildly aggressive this time of year. Text me when you get home. You are loved. God bless.